Hey guys, this is Carrie, and this is the answer key video for homework number 7 from Unit 2. And we're going to be reviewing for a quiz that you're going to have on Monday. And that quiz is closed book, so make sure that you actually study this after you complete this. Alright, so the code below is HTML, because you have the tags. The first one is an opening tag, because it's where the paragraph starts. Then this is where the paragraph ends, so that's the closing tag. And the stuff in between all these words, that's called inner HTML, because it's the stuff that's inside of the HTML. The following code is a sample HTML document that contains some CSS. So first we need to circle the part of the code that's CSS. So the key distinction here is HTML code is built out of tags. So this is HTML, this is HTML, this is HTML, this is HTML, and this was confusing for a lot of students, but this is a tag. So this is actually HTML as well. Closing tag, opening tag, closing tag, closing tag. Those are all tags. So if you look at it here, this part right here is the CSS, not including the style tags. It does include this little parenthesis though. Name one CSS property. A CSS property is this, and the value that goes with that property would be the value that's next to the colon, so blue. In the CSS code, there's letter P followed by some curly braces. What is the vocabulary word for the letter P? Now, a lot of students were tempted to think that this meant, running out of colors, that this meant paragraph. It does, but in particular, I think the question is asking, what do we call this stuff that is in that location in CSS code? And that's called a CSS selector, because it's how we select the element that gets these styles. And then the error in this code is we are missing a semicolon at the end of this line of code. In the line of code below, how many attributes does the HTML element have? So this one is probably the hardest question on the whole thing, I think, based on the number of questions I got from students who finished early in class. But an attribute is the extra information that goes inside of the opening tag. So you're going to start by looking at the opening tag. Now, inside of this opening tag, we've got 1, 2, 3 attributes. And we haven't used all of these attributes before, but they all count as attributes. So if you think about some other attributes that you've seen, we'll get to those in a second with the image one. What are two attributes, or what two attributes should all image elements utilize? Write the attribute and its purpose below. So all images have a source attribute, and the purpose of this is to give the location of the image. And usually we do that with a URL or a file name. And then the other attribute that all images should have is the alt text. And the purpose of the alt text is if the image cannot be seen, this text is shown instead. And the reason for this is twofold. One, sometimes images don't load. And two, sometimes people who are blind browse the internet and they can't see the images on your page. So what will happen is their computer will actually have something called a screen reader, and it will read out loud this text so that they can experience the website in a complete way, even though they cannot see the images. Which of the following are the two sections of an HTML document? So if you go back to this HTML document here, and you actually look at the HTML code, the HTML code is divided into two sections. I'll use the highlighter. Section 1 is the head. The head contains the title, the style, the fave icon, all the information that's not part of the web page. And then the second section is the body, and that contains all of the content of the web page. So for this one, the two sections of an HTML document are the head and body. Which of the following CSS property value pairs could be used to add 20 pixels of space inside of an HTML element? Keyword being inside. So display and spacing are not options. Margin is space outside of the element. Padding is space inside of the element, and so it must be choice 2. Consider the HTML code shown below. Which of the following CSS selectors can be used to style this paragraph? Select all the choices that apply. So these are all possible CSS selectors that might be followed with curly braces and some styles. But in order to figure out which one applies, we have to decipher them. So this dot here means class. So does our paragraph have a class of first? No, it has a class of important, so that's out. Okay, important without the dot just means that it's looking for a important tag. And this is a p tag, not an important tag. So this one is out. Dot important means we're looking for a class of important, and this does have a class of important. And then hashtag first, hashtag means we're looking for an ID of first, and this does have an ID of first. So that would also be a suitable selector. Next up, what is the icon for a web page called in a browser tab? Now, this one you hopefully remember because it's one of the hardest things we've done. Those are called fave icons, and we have a whole video about it on this channel if you wanted to check out that video. Which of the following is a web browser? So this is a URL for a website, not a web browser. Well, first off, a web browser is a program used to browse the internet. Sublime text we use to write code is actually an example of a program called a text editor. Don't use it to browse the internet. HTML is a programming language that we use to write code for the internet in. And then Safari is actually a program we use to browse the internet, and so Safari must be the correct answer. Number 10 is a bit of a trick question. Which of the following HTML elements is used to create hyperlinks to other web pages? So we made a bunch of hyperlinks to other web pages a long time ago, actually, and there's a video about these elements somewhere on this channel. It's not a link, it's not an image, it's not a B, it is A. And A stands for anchor, which is completely not descriptive of how these elements are used, but it is an A element. Usually these A elements have an attribute of an href. Then they've got the text. So the href is the place where they link to http://www.google.com. And then the text in the inner HTML is the thing that you click for the link, and then you have the closing tag here. Label parts A, B, and C, and D using the vocabulary from the word bank below. So first off, you start out your computer. Your computer is the client computer because it's the one who's seeking information. It sends a request, in particular an HTTP request, to a web server. The web server replies back with an HTML document, which is called the response. And this process is actually how the internet works. We send a request, the server sends the HTML back, and then our browser loads the web page based on this HTML code. There are two errors in the line of HTML below. Fix them by rewriting the line of code corrected below. Okay, cool. So opening tag, oh wait, that's a mistake, because inside of our opening tag, this attribute should be inside of there. Attributes always go inside of the opening tag. The inner HTML is irrelevant text, so we leave that. And then here, this is an opening tag when it should have been a closing tag with the slash. The HTML code below is meant to display a bullet point list of websites. So bullet point list is actually, importantly, an unordered list. Correct the errors in the code by writing the correctly functioning and formatted code to the right of the correct code. So instead of being an ordered list, this is supposed to be an unordered list, and it's supposed to end the unordered list here. Now each one of these is not its own unordered list. Each one of these is actually a list item. So I'm not going to rewrite those, but you should. Oh wait, that should also be list item. Closing tag. Each one of these. And importantly, you actually need to make sure that all of your code here is indented, because these are all nested inside of the unordered list. Which of the following words refers to HTML elements within HTML elements? Well, we just said that. If you look at the example above, these elements are all inside of this element, And so that's called nesting. Okay, I'm going to give you guys one more hint about the test, so hopefully you kept watching. Centering an image. This is a question that I keep getting, and it's an important one for you to be able to answer. So if you want to center your images, the CSS code to do that looks like this. And the order of these two lines of code doesn't matter, so I might be writing it in a different order on your test, but this will definitely be a question on your test. I'll see you guys in class on Monday. Please make sure you study. It is going to be closed book. I'll see, yeah, good luck.